Hello everyone, it's Cassie and welcome back to my channel. So today's video, I don't actually know what I'm gonna call it, but I'm going to react to what Goodreads thinks are the best and the worst books that I have personally read. I haven't looked at it at all, so I have no idea. Well, I kind of have an idea what the best one is because I just know what the rating for one is. Oh, actually, other than two, I don't know what their ratings are, and I'll let you know the ones that I know the ratings for. But I think this will be an interesting video to see if I agree with what the average rating is on Goodreads, or if I liked it or disliked it more than the average person. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and give it a big thumbs up. Both those mean the absolute world to me. This is the second last day of Vlogmas, so I am very proud of myself. I mean, I'm filming this a bit ahead, but so far I've posted every day that I needed to, so hopefully that continues for the last little bit of Vlogmas. But I've enjoyed doing it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it so far. Let's hope these last few days go well. I have my iPad here and I'm gonna look on my Goodreads on here and see what's the best and worst books that I've read. I only have the books that I've read since the beginning of 2021 on there, so all the books that I read in 2020 when I was getting back into reading aren't on there, but that's okay. We'll do the top 5 best and the lowest 5, whatever. The 5 at the bottom, 5 at the top, unless there's one on like 6th place that I want to talk about, but we'll do that to keep this video not extremely long. So apparently the worst book that I have read is This Might Hurt by Stephanie Robel. I still don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I recently read this at the end of November, so I've talked about this book in my November wrap up, or like my recent reads video that I did, and my 24-hour timer challenge. I read it during that vlog. I will link both those videos down below if I remember, but if you watched either of those, you know that I was extremely disappointed by this book. I gave it only 3 stars, and this was one of my most anticipated books that I owned. I was really excited about it, and it was just the biggest disappointment. Like, I'm so sad how much I didn't like it. Does that make sense? I'm disappointed with how much I disliked it because I really thought this was a perfect book for me. I thought this could be one of my favorite books of the year, and it was nowhere near it. Sold as a cult book, kind of, where she goes to a retreat called Wisewood, doesn't talk to her sister for 6 months, and then her sister gets an email saying, "I know your secret, I'm gonna tell your sister," basically. And then her sister goes to save her from this cult and tell her secret before Wisewood tells them. This was just not what it said it was gonna be, and it was pretty disappointing. Goodreads has an average rating of 3.24, and I would agree with that. I don't often give books 3 stars. That has changed in the last 2 months, but this one was just not it. It was so disappointing. So I don't know if I'd say it was the worst book I've ever read, but it's down there. I can understand the low average rating. Next, I have People Like Us by Dana Mel. I read this earlier in the year, and I don't think it's that bad. I quite enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Boarding private school type of thing, where one girl is murdered. Our main character is sent an email from the dead girl saying, "Figure out who killed me," with all these hints. While it had its flaws, I still enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and I read it like in 2 days or something, but it has an average rating of 3.52. I can understand why people give it like a 3.5. Again, I don't think this is one of the worst books I've read. Oh my goodness, I just saw a book that I really like is low on the ratings. I can get the lower rating. I liked it enough to give it 4 stars. I had a fun time with it, but I would definitely put other books lower on this rating. Next is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This is, I think, his least popular book, like most disliked book. Keep in mind, this one also has a lot more ratings than the other ones. So this one has 81,000 ratings. People Like Us has 15,000, and This Might Hurt has 6,000. So we'll keep that in mind. But This one is following a group of final girls, so the girls that always stay alive at the end of the slasher type of movies, but this is real life. They are the real people that these slasher movies are based off of. They have a little bit of a support group together because they are the only people that understand what they've went through, until one of them is killed off, and it seems as though they're being picked off one by someone. We have our main character who is trying to figure out what is happening. She lives a really recluse lifestyle after her trauma. She also is kind of an unreliable narrator, which I really liked. I give this 4 stars. I enjoyed it more than the average person, but I again do see its flaws, especially because this is supposed to be a horror, and I don't think this was a horror at all. To me, this was a thriller, which I like, so that worked for me. But if you're going into this expecting a horror, you're gonna be disappointed. I read this for Mel Reed's Patreon book club, like buddy read, whatever month that was in 2021, and I know a lot of people were disappointed by that. I had never read a Grady Hendrix before this, and I've only read one after it, and I did not like it, which is an unpopular opinion. I shouldn't say I did not like it. It was just not made for me. Again, I didn't have any previous experience with him as an author. I wasn't really expecting horror from it. So I think that would be a huge letdown if you were, or if you were a fan of his other works. Then the next one is The Girls Are Also Nice Here by Lori Elizabeth Flynn. I read this year and I quite enjoyed it. This one has a rating of a 3.56. I read quite a few reviews when I read this one because I was like, why are people not really enjoying this? Lots of people just didn't like the mean girl of it all. This is very similar to In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. We have our main girl who is going back to school for a college reunion, and when she was at school, something happened. We don't really know what for a while. You're like, it's hinted at, and I'm pretty sure I guessed what it was. They don't outright say it for a while. This is the first time she's back at college, facing what happened when she was in freshman year, and facing people that she hasn't seen in a really long time. And it seems like someone is trying to get her and her old friend Sully to come clean about things that happened in the past. So right there, very, very, very similar to In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. So I thought this would be like the perfect book for me because In My Dreams I Hold a Knife was my favorite book last year. And I did really enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't as good as In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, but I still enjoyed it. Had some flaws. So, like I said, it seemed like people really didn't like the mean girl-ness of it. I feel like in the synopsis, you can kind of gather that that is going to be a theme in this book. I'm not a person where I have to particularly like our character in a thriller. Sometimes it matters, but sometimes it doesn't. If someone's unlikable because they're they do bad stuff, I can put that aside. If someone's an unlikable character because they're just annoying, I can't get past that. That's me. So these characters in this book are not particularly likable, and it's the same as In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and I'm totally okay with that. If you're not, this book won't be for you. I didn't really find myself rooting for the characters. There was like maybe one instance where I was like wanting them to do well. I don't have to root for the characters to enjoy the book. So I think it's kind of your own personal taste with that. I didn't really like the ending of it. Like the last 2 pages, I didn't really like, but that's why I gave it 4 stars instead of 5. Again, I would have other books that I've read lower on this rating, but that's just me. The 5th lowest book that I've read is The Counselors by Jessica Goodman. I read this year and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars, so I'm really sad to see it so low. There is another book by this author that I think it was much worse. Much worse. So it's really disappointing that this one's so low. It has a rating of 5.36 as well, so I guess it's the same as The Girls Are Also Nice Here. This one follows our main character who goes to a summer camp. She's been going since she was younger. This summer camp is for rich kids. She's not one, but her parents work at the camp, so she gets to go to this camp for free or like a reduced whatever. Kind of camp rock-ish, but dark. So she's a counselor now. This is her first year as a counselor. I can't remember. And she has like her best friends that she made at this camp. They live in different states, but this is where they spend the most time together. And their friendship blossomed when they were very young. But there obviously are some differences because they are rich and she is not. And she has gone through some things throughout this past year, since they last saw each other, that she has not told them about. She's keeping as a secret from them and from lots of other people. And so there is a distance between them. This boy that she knows from her hometown is found dead at the camp, and things just unravel from there. She starts suspecting everyone, and she is figuring out what happened to this boy. Again, I really liked it. I read it on the beach. It was just perfect vibes. It was really, really great. I thought it was a solid YA mystery. I guess people don't agree. I know when I read a couple reviews after I read it that people didn't like one part of the twist, and I think that part of not liking it is just personal opinion, personal taste. So that, I don't think that is the only reason I can think people would rate it low. I know people just have like a hate on for YA mystery a lot of the time, or YA in general. But I like it, so sad to see it so low. And 100% I would put so many books lower than this that I've read. Let's go into the top 5 books that I have read, and I kind of think I'm gonna know what they all are. I don't think any of them will be a surprise. So the top 2 are the 2 that I knew were gonna be in the top. When I have my physical TBR on my Goodreads, I do tend to have it as the highest rated at the top. So before I read them, I know what's the highest rated, and I do have that prompt on my TBR game. So I knew these 2 were top of the top. So we have Heartstopper Volume 1, which I just read. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was super cute. Follow Nick and Charlotte as they become friends and their friendship blossoms into a romance. I read this in that timer vlog, and it will be in another vlog coming up. So I knew that this was the highest rated, one of the highest rated books that I owned. I really liked it. It has a rating of a 4.53, which I could agree with. I gave it a 4.5. Just wasn't 5 for me. Just didn't have that 5-star feeling, but I really, really liked it. 4.5 is a really good rating. So no shade to it. I don't know if I'd put it as my top rated book that I've read, because some of the other ones that are going to come up would be higher, but it's like, it's the best of the best. So next I have House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, the first book in the Crescent City series. I read this at the beginning of this year, and I loved it. But I knew this one was my top rated, or was my top rated before I got a Heartstopper, so I knew this one would be up here as well. This one has a rating of a 4.48. I gave this one 5 stars. I loved this book. This is like a murder mystery fantasy book where we follow Bryce. We see at the beginning of the book is a party girl. Then there are some murders in the city that she lives in. Everyone thinks they caught the person, and then flash forward 2 years later, the murders start again, and they realize that they might not have the actual murderer. They bring Bryce onto the case because she has a connection to this case, and she is given the protection and help of a fallen angel called Hunt. And they are just trying to find out what is happening, who is this murderer. There's so much more to it, but that's the brief idea of it. I loved it so much. I still haven't read the sequel, but this is so good, and so I very much agree that this is one of the best books I've ever read. Then it's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I also read this month. I also read this year and adored it. I think it's 100% worth the hype. I gave it 5 stars. This has a 4.46 rating. I can't remember her name. We have a journalist who, for some reason, is asked by Evelyn Hugo to write about her life. She has never talked about her life to anyone, but she decides to get this journalist to write about her life. No one knows why. Evelyn Hugo is a huge star. She was a huge star from, I think it's the 50s, maybe 60s on. So we follow her as she tells the story to this journalist of her life and the 7 husbands that come with this life and the hardships and everything that she went through. And I just love this book. It was so good. I read this extremely fast and I'm glad I finally got to it because I loved it. So I would 100% agree that this is one of the best books that I have read. The 4th highest rating is Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This one has a 4.43 rating. Super good. This is the first book in the Supernatural Investigations series where we follow Amari, who her brother goes missing and they don't hear from him, and everyone just tells her and her mom that they're from a bad neighborhood, so he probably just got into bad stuff. He's fine. Don't worry about it. One day she finds a suitcase in a closet which tells her about the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs and the supernatural world that she had no idea about. It's an invitation to start attending there, and she goes there to find out what happened to her brother because she's convinced that this has something to do with what happened to her brother. Again, I really enjoyed this. I give it 5 stars. Super cute, super fun. If you like any type of fantasy, I think you would enjoy this one as well. Oh good, a controversial one for my 5th one. The 5th highest rated book that I have read is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Yeah, Delia Owens. I have a controversial opinion on this one, I guess. It has a rating of a 4.43, so the same as Amari and the Night Brothers. So this one follows the Marsh girl who everyone thinks is a weirdo because she never went to school. She runs around dirty, messy in the marsh, and her family has been known to be pretty quote-unquote messed up. I can't think of a proper way to say it. They have their issues and the town knows about it. We follow her from when she's quite young, her family issues and what amounts from that, and then we have a later timeline where there's like a murder mystery of a boy from the town, how everyone is blaming it on her because she is the outsider. I liked this one enough. I gave it 3 stars. I read it last year. I liked it enough. It was fine. There was way too much describing in this. Like, okay, I get it. There is marsh, there is grass, there is bugs, there are butterflies, there are birds, there are all these things that have all these describing words. 20 describing words of every single thing. And that is just not for me. That is just not my personal taste. It's dirty. Just say it's dirty. I don't know. I just didn't really like that part. That made the book way too long, unnecessarily long. If they cut out half of those describing words, I would think I would have enjoyed it more. I feel very average about it, which is controversial. I know. Many people love it, so that's why it's my opinion. At least one was controversial. I would agree with 4 out of 5 of the highest rated. 100%. Those are some of the best books that I have ever read. With the 5 lowest, there's one that I agree with 100% out of the 5. One that I disagree 1000%. And then the other 3 I disagree with, but not as strongly as the other one. And bottoms would be 4 out of 5 would be different. So it just shows you how personal reading taste is. This was very interesting. Those are the highest and lowest 5 books that I have read on Goodreads. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments down below if you agree with them being the top or the lowest rated, or comment down below if there's any books that have a low or high rating on Goodreads that you just don't agree with. Let me know what they are down below. Make sure to subscribe and give it a big thumbs up if you like this video. That would mean the absolute world to me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.